Welcome back to the Self Led Leader. Today, I'm going to be talking about why you need to be thinking about yourself way more often than you currently are. That's right, why you need to be more self reflective in today's day and age. If you're like me, and if you're like most people, self reflection is becoming increasingly difficult, but it's necessary now more than ever. So stay tuned and listen to this episode where I'm going to unpack exactly how to self reflect, why it's so incredibly powerful, and how it will quite literally change your life. Let's get right into it. Welcome to the Self Led Leader, a podcast for high performers who want to lead from alignment, not expectation. I'm Dr. Christina Ady, a social psychologist, and I'm here to help you lead with clarity, not chaos. This show is about what happens before the strategy, your mindset, your nervous system, the inner leadership that shapes everything you say and do. Because presence isn't about being loud, it's about being aligned. Let's get right into it. Now, if you're like me, if you're like most people, self-reflection is really hard and uncomfortable. But self-reflection, or the idea of just thinking about yourself, thinking about why you feel or why you are behaving a certain way, it's really challenging for many people. And if you've ever found it uncomfortable or difficult to sit alone with your thoughts, just know that you're not alone. What I see happening so incredibly frequently is that when there is an opportunity to sit in silence with no one and nothing but yourself and your own thoughts, most people choose not to. And there's two main reasons that I see. Either they feel incredibly uncomfortable, or they feel incredibly bored incredibly quickly. And here's the thing, think about it. There's a reason why it's so uncomfortable to think about yourself and to really think about why you're thinking and feeling a certain way. As a child, you were taught to read, you were taught to write, you were taught to do math, you were taught a whole bunch of things. But thinking about yourself is likely not one of those things. If anything, you may even have had parents or teachers tell you that thinking about yourself was bad. Maybe you were selfish. Maybe you were conceited. Maybe you were, insert the adjective here, if you were thinking about yourself too much. And you likely had experiences where if you were reserved, quiet, taking some time to ponder and reflect, if you were daydreaming or had your head up in the clouds, you were discouraged from doing that. You may even have been in trouble for doing that. Most people just, it never became part of their routine, of their lifestyle, of their habits. And that used to be me. But becoming someone who has learned to think and self-reflect quite deeply, I can honestly tell you that it's completely transformed my life and my approach, especially in difficult moments. Now, hear me out for a second. Your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts, they are like a leaky faucet. Imagine you walked into your kitchen, you turned on the kitchen sink, and your faucet broke, and you just had a huge stream of water just spraying everywhere. You're getting your counter wet, you're getting your clothes wet, you're getting your nearby dishes wet. It's just a mess. Now, you might try to put a cup under it, put a Band-Aid on it, or try to stop the immediate flow of water. But you're not dealing with where the water's coming from, right? You might run to some other part of your house and turn off the main switch for the water and think that that solved the problem. But what are you going to do when you need to use your water? What are you going to do when you turn the water back on and the ginormous leak restarts? If you get where I'm going with this, then your emotions are the exact same way. They explode. And rather than dealing with the root cause of maybe the terrible plumbing or whatever else is going on underneath the surface, Most people try to put on a quick, immediate band aid type of solution to resolve the emotions right then and there. And they just leave it until the next time that they need water, until the next time that that big emotional reaction happens again. And most people live that way by default for years, if not decades, without realizing that there's another way. Or maybe they know that there's another way through self reflection, but they opt not to go that route because it is so incredibly uncomfortable and jarring, especially when you first start. So let's unpack self reflection a little bit more because you don't want to spend your life running between your kitchen sink and your water switch, alternating between massive streams of water spraying everywhere and no water at all. Now, if you're someone who has taken every single opportunity when you're alone to distract yourself, to turn on the TV, to immediately pick up your phone, to scroll through, Instagram just to close it and go straight to YouTube Shorts, just to close it and go straight to Facebook, just to close it and go straight to TikTok, just to go back to Instagram, just to go back to YouTube. If you find yourself constantly distracting yourself and feeling so incredibly uncomfortable thinking about yourself, about your problems, about what you're feeling, again, you're not alone, but you need to learn how to do so. You need to sit through the discomfort and you need to feel the feels. In the self-development spiritual space, they love to say you have to feel it to heal it. And when I first came across that phrase, part of it was very comfortable for me and it was very comforting because I was like, yay, finally, maybe if I sit with these uncomfortable thoughts, they'll go away on their own. And then when that never happened and I had to do the inner work, it was frustrating because it's like, come on, how long do I have to feel it before it heals? How many times am I going to sit here feeling these things before they spontaneously heal themselves? And it's not quite how it works. But there is some truth in that because it is a skill and it is a process, and you do get so much better at it. Let me give you an example. I currently have two young kids, and I love my kids. They're the biggest blessings, but they also test my patience like nothing else in my life ever has. And if you're a parent, I'm sure you can relate to this. And the first few years, I was just being driven up a wall. Like I was losing my mind. Like the amount of patience that was required, my mind could not comprehend how other parents were navigating parenthood and sanity at the same time. Like they were mutually exclusive for me. They just did not exist in the same space. But then, because I really, truly, deeply embrace self reflection, I found myself wondering more and more frequently, like why it was so hard to be patient, why it was so easy to be triggered, why there were certain situations over and over and over and over. And again, if you're a parent, over and over and over and over. But why there were certain things that were notoriously stressing me out and triggering me way more frequently than others. And why the exact same situation could trigger me one day and not another day. And so this is where self-reflection comes in, because I have absolutely no doubt that you listening right now have something in your life that bothers you, that makes you uncomfortable, that makes you feel like if you never ever had to think about that thing again, you'd be chef's kiss happy. But that's just not how life works. And so rather than hiding from your problems, rather than running from your problems, rather than distracting yourself from your problems, there is a lot of power that comes in being able to handle your powers and cultivate the emotional capacity within yourself to be able to handle the challenges without, losing your mind in the process. So, how do you self reflect, right? If I was to make it easy for you, step one, eliminate distractions. Step two, sit there. Step three, see what comes to mind. It's as easy as that. And really, what you'll find is that a lot will come to mind. And many times, what comes to mind will trigger some sort of emotional reaction in you. That might start with boredom. That it might be as simple as boredom of like, oh, I don't want to do this. This sucks. This is stupid. The urge to pick up your phone and doom scroll will be intense. But if you can get through that, if you can give yourself the space and the grace to actually think about something else, you will find that you will. And then lots of things will start coming to the surface. You'll start thinking about your day. You'll start thinking about those moments that really bothered you, that you feel helpless or that you still feel angry about. You'll start thinking about things from your past. And so what you'll find is that a lot of things will come up and most of those things will have a pattern. And there's a reason that it will keep coming up. And it's because there's something about it, whether that's reoccurring, whether it's something that happened and you're continuing to play out in your current day-to-day actions. There's something going on that you are not acknowledging that you should be. And that's a main reason why it feels so uncomfortable. When it came to me and my parenting, for example, I had to have many uncomfortable moments sitting with myself and getting honest around why do I feel so impatient? And if you're like me, it will likely take you more than one attempt to sit there and think about it. The more that you do it, the better that you'll get, the easier it'll get, and the more you'll start to see deeper and deeper understanding of yourself. Where for me, there was a lot to unpack around the concept of authority and the concept of respect. And when I was raised, when I was growing up, I was taught that, younger, younger people, children, should always be extremely respectful of older people, of authority, of parent figures, teachers, etc. And that was really, really ingrained in me. And so when my kids were not listening to me, it felt like they were disrespecting my authority, which sounds really funny to say out loud, but that's what was coming up for me. And recognizing that and owning it and then being able to process it and think for myself, all right, is this a belief? Is this a thought? Is this a teaching that I would like to continue passing on to them? Or is this something that I need to modify and create my version of it that I can actually be comfortable and satisfied passing on? Or is this something that I need to recognize is happening and figure out how to let it go so that I'm not feeling impatient every time my kids are acting up and not listening to me, and I'm feeling that clash between what I was taught and what I want to teach? And so for you, that can be the exact same process in a different scenario. Maybe at work, there's a person on your team who is consistently late on their deadlines and doesn't have the courtesy to give you a heads up. And maybe that drives you up a wall and makes your blood boil and makes you feel incredibly disrespected. And from a perspective, like, yes, there may be some truth in that. But the deeper understanding here is giving yourself the time and the space and the grace to really understand why you are having such strong emotional reactions, whether that's at work, whether that's in your relationships, whether that's at home, whether that's with a stranger cutting you off in traffic. To understand why it's happening so that you then have the power and the control over your behavior. And really, self-reflection is the biggest tool that will take you from feeling like things are happening to you, feeling that victim mindset, feeling like you have lost control of your thoughts and your emotions. And it's the tool and the bridge and the transformation that will take you to understanding what is happening to you in the moment and why. Now, you see, you are very likely to have the same emotional reaction. Like, if the team member at work is late and they don't give you the courtesy heads up, you may still feel angry. But the difference is, in the first situation, you're just angry. You've lost control. You may be spiraling or feeling like you just want to attack them. And there's a sense of powerlessness that comes with that. There's a sense of deep-rooted anger, almost on the verge of like not understanding why you're so angry, but you just are. And that can be a scary feeling for a lot of people. But when you're on the other end and you're in the process, or you are used to self-reflecting, you begin to understand why it's happening why you're reacting that way. And then you also get a lot better at identifying when it's starting as well as how to end it. Because when something happens and it triggers you and you don't know why, and you're in a default reactive state, whether that's anger, whether that's resentment, whether that's tears, there's that sense of powerlessness and also a sense of not knowing when it will end. But when you've done the self reflection, you catch yourself in the moment being like, oh my gosh, I'm so incredibly mad right now. And I know it's because this person did not have the courtesy to give me a heads up. And I understand that's happening. And all of a sudden, the power comes back to you. And you have way more control over your thoughts and emotions, where it becomes easier to say, like, okay, I recognize this. This is happening. Let me send an email later when I'm not so hot headed. But now let me, go for a walk and cool down. Let me take a break, have a coffee, and reset. I have a meeting coming up in 5 minutes. I cannot be in this state moving forward. Like, you regain control of the situation, even in the moments when you feel like you've lost your cool. Now, if you're not sold yet on why you should be thinking about yourself more frequently, here's the thing: becoming aware of something is really the first step to change. If you've ever tried to break a habit, then you will know it is so incredibly hard. And again, if you're like most people, you can't really even articulate why it's so hard. It just is. Maybe you try to diet. Maybe you try to eliminate something from your diet. Maybe you try to introduce something like walking those, 10,000 steps a day, or hitting the gym 3 times a week, or journaling before bed 5 times a week, like whatever it is. Whether you're taking something away or you're adding something in, it is hard. And part of the reason why it's so hard is because so many people fundamentally lack the awareness of what they're doing and why. Okay. So when you start to build that awareness, you start to build intentionality. And if you're new here, I love intentionality. I love being intentional with your thoughts, with your feelings, with your actions. Being intentional completely changes the way that you approach the same situations that you're already in. So let's say you want to add 10,000 steps a day. First of all, you need to be really aware of why, and not just a basic why of like, I want to lose 5 pounds. Woohoo, that's not going to get you far. You need to be able to go a little bit deeper than that. And the deeper that you can go, the more effective it will be. But why do you want to lose those, 5, 10 pounds? You want to feel better about yourself? Okay, great. We're one layer deeper. What does that mean? Be specific. When you take the time to go a little bit deeper and unpack those layers and really sit in that discomfort, all of a sudden you understand that you want to lose 5 to 10 pounds because you want to feel better about yourself, because you think how you look is the definitive, metric that other people use to gauge your worth. And all of a sudden you understand that you think if you have an extra 5 pounds on you, or you have an extra 10 pounds on you, people won't take you as seriously because you don't take yourself as seriously. And would you get that level of self-awareness and information if you did not sit with those uncomfortable thoughts? No, you would not. And now imagine, are you way more likely to actually commit to doing those 10,000 steps a day when you think you just want to lose 5 pounds? How easy is it going to be to be a couch potato eating chips? Versus, are you way more likely to commit to losing those 5 pounds or walking 10,000, maybe even 12,000 steps a day when you understand that your self-worth and your definition of how people treat you is on the line based on your body image? There's depth and there's value in this. And so now, are you going to willy-nilly figure out, oh my gosh, it's 10 o'clock, it's bedtime, I've only walked 3,000 steps today, and just oopsies? Or are you going to have that intentionality where you are going to make sure it's in your schedule? You've made time for it. You move things around. You get the support that you need. Maybe you go on your lunch break. Maybe you go after dinner. Like, you will figure it out intentionally because it matters and because you understand why it matters. And if that's not enough, then building on the awareness and the intentionality, you just become way more authentic because you begin to understand yourself and what really drives you and what really motivates you and All those little things that you've learned and picked up along the way from your parents, your teachers, your friends, society, movies, social media, name it all. You start to understand, like, oh my God, I'm doing this because of these reasons and not because I actually really want to. And there is so much power in that. And the more that you unpack those layers and the more that you align with your own authenticity, and I know authenticity is like a word that's so thrown around. And you can think of it as just like really understanding your own psychology and giving yourself the permission to lean into who you actually are instead of continuing to pretend who you think you should be. And again, so much power in that. Now, if I've done a good job convincing you and you start self reflecting, especially if you are in any sort of leadership role, if you're running your business, if you're a coach, if you're a consultant, if you're a leader of some sort at work and you're managing a team of people, like you understand yourself better, which then helps you understand other people better. Let's take two examples, right? A coach and a leader managing a team of 5 at work. If you don't even take the time to understand yourself, to understand the reactions that you're having, to understand the advice that you're giving, whether it's actually things you believe and you think are effective or it's something that you've just been taught in society to say, like if you don't even have that fundamental understanding of yourself, how do you expect to be a good role model, a good influence, a good leader, a good coach for other people? Right? Like there is just too many pieces missing. And the missing link there is the self-reflective nature that needs to be had to become a better person, a better leader, a better insert the blank here. And so when you start to do this, there's honestly like a beautiful ripple effect that happens in your life where your self-reflection will not be in a bubble. It's not like all of a sudden you're like Einstein having these amazing, incredible, beautiful insights that no one else knows is happening. No, like there will be incredible ripple effects. Like all of a sudden you're going to show up in a completely different way. When you're having a strong reaction, maybe there's someone in your family who triggers you and makes you so incredibly angry and like irritated and frustrated to be around. And all of a sudden you're less frustrated. Like, ooh, imagine that. How much nicer would that be for your other family members too? Maybe you have a reputation for being a hothead at work, and all of a sudden you are cool as a cucumber. Like, imagine the repercussions of that, right? You get to get so much clarity about yourself and what you'd actually like to do in your business, in your role, in your life. You get to make better decisions. Like your entire decision making process improves. You're less emotionally ruled and you're way more logical, analytical, strategic. You get to improve your communication. This is a huge one in your relationships, in your personal relationships, at work, friends, colleagues, with your boss. Because you become more aware of your strengths, your weaknesses, your emotional triggers, because you're able to then learn how to stay calmer, how to flip the switch and stop being angry as quickly, how to sort of improve your emotional state, that completely translates to improving the way that you communicate. Like, if someone says something and you get triggered really quickly, you are a person that's difficult to talk to. Like, if you're constantly getting triggered by other people, I hate to break it to you, but you're not a good communicator. You need to be able to maintain your calm, maintain your cool, maintain your handle on your triggers, even when it's happening in the moment, so that you can respond to the moment, to the conversation, to whatever it is from a different cognitive state than when you are having an emotional reaction. Like, if you've ever heard active listening advice, everyone always talks about you need to respond, not react. And they say that nicely, especially in the sense of like, don't interrupt people to say what you want. But a huge, huge thing that's overlooked is people say things reactively when they are triggered emotionally. So when they get provoked, when they feel irritated, when they're feeling impatient, when they're feeling angry, like any sort of emotional reaction in a conversation, people lose their cool and that lowers communication and that increases miscommunication like crazy. So when you learn to, keep a handle on that, your ability to communicate improves tremendously. And the best one yet, you get to model better behavior for others. Whatever reputation you have right now, like take a moment to think about it. And then imagine it improving through something as simple as you having a practice once a day, once a week, once every few days, like what works for you, but having that self-reflective practice, putting it, putting in the work to really understand yourself and your psychology is going to have tremendous ripple effects in every single area of your life. And if that's not enough, you get to reduce your chances of burnout, increase the amount of positive feelings that you're feeling, and really, my favorite one as well, you then create a sense of self trust with yourself. The more that you listen to yourself, the more that you understand your own judgments, the more that you understand where your feelings and your thoughts are coming from, the better you get at distinguishing what you would actually like to do and how you would like to behave yourself versus not, versus what's coming from a place of like, oh, I feel pressure to do this, or oh, I think I should do this because I think it'll make me feel good, versus like, no, this is who I am and this is how I'm comfortable responding. And this is what I feel has the best possible alignment with me and like aligning who I am with what I'm doing and how I'm being perceived by others. You get to align all three. And the more that you do that, the more you really build that self trust and you lower your sense of comparison and your sense of judgment and your sense of self judgment. And comparison really is the thief of joy. And so, circling back, if you find yourself feeling uncomfortable sitting with your own thoughts, if you find yourself constantly wanting, seeking, craving that distraction, especially if you're scrolling on social media, whether you know it or not, if you're being honest with yourself, you'll see it's happening. You are still judging yourself and comparing yourself the entire time. You're literally doing yourself a disservice without even recognizing it. So, let's quickly talk about a couple of things that might come up at this point that you might be like, but Christina, I don't have time. But Christina, it's so uncomfortable. No, stop it. Stop it right now. Don't even give yourself an out. If you are sitting here listening to me, already thinking about all of the reasons why it won't work, again, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like, how can it possibly work when you're already convincing yourself that it won't? If you're already looking for reasons to not make it work for you. All right, let's stop that right now. You have more time to self reflect than you think you do. Okay. In the shower, on your way to work, while driving, before bed. You're probably ruminating on your day and self reflecting anyway, just calling it something else and doing it less effectively. Like, you have time in the day. Don't let some bogus excuse of you being too busy stop you from actually finding 3 to 5 minutes to think about yourself. Okay. If you feel like it's too uncomfortable, yes, you're right. It is uncomfortable and it's going to be uncomfortable sometimes. But do you want to live your life feeling uncomfortable anyway as you continue to avoid it and have all these other things happen? Or do you just want to deal with the discomfort, get it the heck over with, and just move on and have those beautiful ripple effects I already talked about? Okay. Distraction is another big one. Cool. Avoid it. If you were going into either a coaching call, a call with like a client call, a meeting with your boss, like you would put away the distractions. You would not have your AirPods in, your headphones on, TV on in the background. Like you would minimize all distractions and you would treat that meeting with respect. Take 3, 5, 10 minutes for yourself and treat it respectfully. Minimize distractions. You can do it. I believe in you. All right. Here's how you are going to build a simple and a sustainable self reflection practice over the next week. You're going to look for micro moments in your day, either spontaneous moments that come up, moments where you're feeling very triggered, or intentional moments like right when you wake up in the morning or right before bed. Or if you have the time, like maybe in the evening, like maybe there's a 15-minute period where you can just walk away from your world, from your reality, and just focus on yourself for 10 to 15 minutes. Okay. Find those micro moments. Honestly, like in the beginning, 3 minutes is enough. Like don't go overboard. You don't need an entire hour to self-reflect. Like it's too much. You can either sit there in silence and just see what comes up, or you can start with asking yourself an intentional question like, what went well today? What didn't go well today? And just see what comes up. And when that comes up, the important thing is to let it run its course and ask yourself some follow-up questions. So if you say like, hey, what went well today? And the first thing that pops up for you is like, oh, you know what? I actually did really well in that meeting today. Don't just leave it at that. Don't just move on to what didn't go well. But all right, cool. Like, what did I do differently today that helped it go well? Oh, hey, you know what? I spent extra time like preparing my notes and less time preparing my slides. Usually I spend all the time on the slides to avoid actually thinking about what I'm going to say. But this time I took an extra 20 minutes to actually think about my thoughts. And that translated really well into how I spoke in the meeting. Like, oh, shoot, there's a massive insight. Next meeting, I now know I need to spend less time distracting myself with pretty slides and more time articulating my thoughts preemptively. That's a pretty good insight, wouldn't you say? And so ask yourself a question or two to start, see what comes up, and just lean into it. Like, honestly, think of it as having a conversation with yourself. You're not just throwing a tennis ball at the wall and it's just coming back to you. Like, you are having an actual conversation with yourself. You can even go third party if you need to. Like, sometimes, especially when I first started self reflecting, I would speak to myself as like me, myself, and I, like as if I'm outside looking in, if that helps. Because when you're able to put a little bit of distance between you, when you're able to think about your own thoughts, you start to think differently. Because when you're in your thoughts, you are literally a stream of consciousness and it's hard to catch yourself. And that's where people typically tend to spiral and be like, oh my God, that happened. And then this and that. Oh, I hate everyone. And why did I do this? And oh, this is terrible. And then you catch yourself and you're like, oh my God, I feel so incredibly angry. And now I'm mad at this other person. And like, I don't even, I didn't even notice. I just ate half a bag of M&Ms. Like, what just happened for the past 6 minutes? Like, that's a stream of consciousness. And that's just thinking. But when you can differentiate yourself a little bit and think about your thinking, all of a sudden it's like, hey, I'm feeling very angry at this. And you think about it. Why? Why did it come up, right? Like, ask yourself the questions and just imagine you're coaching yourself. Okay. If that helps you, your thoughts are the client, you are the coach, and you are having a conversation with yourself as the client, coaching yourself through the situation. That's all it is. Okay. So be intentional with finding little pockets of time. Let's say 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. Ask yourself some questions, pretend you're coaching yourself, and do it intentionally without any distractions. When you feel uncomfortable, when resistance comes up, when you're on the verge of a breakthrough of really feeling something important, you will feel the urge to pick up your phone and scroll. I still get that urge too. Catch it and just celebrate it because honestly, you are on the verge of a big breakthrough. And if you hang in there, you will have that breakthrough and that breakthrough will be worth it. Okay. Next thing you know, it'll be 6 months from now. You'll accidentally come across this episode again and you'll be like, oh my gosh, self reflection changed my life. And when you do, drop me an email, shoot me a DM, let me know the amazing benefits that you have had from doing this practice. Okay. Thank you so much for listening. I am rooting for you, and I can't wait to hear about all of the amazing things that you discover on your breakthrough journey. Now, if you're looking for a place to sort of put this into action to get some support along the way, stay tuned. I'm launching a community, and it's going to be the perfect place to get the mindset and the communication support to put all these pieces into practice and actually transform the way that you wish to transform and develop this true, authentic, natural, profound sense of confidence in who you are, in how you think, and in how you speak. Because I think all three pieces are so incredibly important. Stay tuned. Check the show notes because if the community has gone live, I will add the link into the description. All right, talk to you all in the next episode. Bye.